Yes.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Oh, do I tell the long version or the short version of the story? They're both about the same length. So, there is, and no, I'm not ever going to tell anyone my full name, but J.Michael Tatum is the name I have now, but the name I was born with is much, much longer because I come from very eccentric stock. And my brother and I both have extremely long names with numbers at the end of them. And I don't know why. I never got a straight answer. I still don't know what the J stands for. I'm kidding, I do. But my name is actually much longer than that. And I have been known occasionally to use other of those names when doing bit parts on shows that I'm already a principal in. So I'm not saying that I'm not saying that Xavier or Buckley or Nels or anything like that are actually part of my names, but they might be. And it's something we do, if I'm in a show like as a main character and they also want me to play, it's just kind of an in-joke up at the studio that we're just like, it's Jay Xavier, because everyone up at the studio knows my full name and never ever ceases giving me crap about it. Like, I didn't name myself. I mean, you know, I changed the name legally when I got older because George, I pared it down to the non-alien sounding name. You know, because my full name sounds like I'm from Mars. And yeah, it's like, oh, what's going on out there? Who cares? We're having more fun in here, right? So yeah, that's kind of where that comes from. So whenever you see that, it's either J. Xavier Buckley or it's J. Nels Buckley or one of those variants. It's me, just messing around. But there's always the J in front of it. That's how you know. I don't think there's any other actor there that uses the J in front of their name for some reason. And I don't know why I started using it. I think it's because in Samurai 7, R. Bruce Elliott, who played Kanbei in that show, became such a hero of mine. He was the first actor of the bunch that I met personally, because I usually had to record on weekends and stuff just because of my 9-to-5 schedule. So I didn't get to meet any of the other actors on Samurai 7 until much later. And Bruce, of course, I heard him all the time in the booth being a Kanbei. Wonderful. And I'm like, oh, I fell in love with that voice. And Chris told me, oh, he's a great guy. You have to meet him sometime. And I met him coming out of the studio one day as I was coming in, and he just kind of goes, You're Michael Tatum. You play Rikichi, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, Bruce Elliott. And he's just like, and he said something really wonderful to me. He's like, you really got something special there. I hope you do this more. I mean, it'd be great to hear you more stuff. And I'm like, hey. And so, you know, when Chris asked me later that day, I think that was probably the day of, you know, the first, you know, hey, what do you want to be credited as, you know, question that you always get asked at some point. And I was like, can I use the J for my name? Chris uses an R and it's classy, and I just want to be J.Michael Tatum. Because I never thought I'd do this again, you know? I'm like, well, just be J.Michael Tatum. So J.Michael Tatum it is, and now it's J.Michael Tatum, and it sounds so pompous now, doesn't it? J.Michael Tatum, I have an initial, and you don't. But honestly, I choose the J too because Michael Tatum is an incredibly common name where I'm from. Like in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area of Texas, there are like 14 Michael Tatums living within 20 miles of us. So, good luck, stalkers. but yeah, see, true story, real quick. I got to tell this. But when I got my glasses, these glasses here, my Kyoya glasses. This was years before Oron, of course. But I was at a lens crafters in the mall. And it was like a Saturday, like 2 in the afternoon, and I pick these frames out, and I give them my prescription, I go eat lunch, I come back, and my guy hands me my glasses, and they're the right frames, and there's my name, J, which stands for John, by the way, J.Michael Tatum, up there, and I put the glasses on, and I'm like, there is no way in hell these are my prescription glasses, because I mean, I couldn't see a foot in front of my face. And I told the guy, I'm like, you've got to, I'm sorry, I don't want to be mean, but this can't be right. Can you check the calipers on your machine? And he's like, oh yeah, checked. And so he disappears behind the curtain, you know. And I notice on the other side of the showroom, or whatever they call that space where we just kind of sit out waiting like idiots for our glasses. There's this other gentleman there having the same problem. And he's got the similar frames from what I can tell, and he's like, you know, what is, and I can just tell, I can't hear him, but I can tell from the gesturing what's going on, and I'm thinking, oh, there must be something wrong with their machines, they're screwing up everybody's glasses. And a few moments later, my guy rep comes out and talks to him and his rep, and they look at him, and they all three go. And me, and they come over, and they're like, J.Michael Tatum, meet J.Michael Tatum. And there were two of us there, J.Michael Tatums in LensCrafters, getting the same frames. And we had to fight, and I won. Anyway. There could be only one. But yeah, true story, true story. So, okay, what time is it, by the way? What time is it? It's 12:24. And we go till 1, right? Yeah? Yes. And by the way, if I look at my watch while I'm talking, it is not because I'm impatient with you people, it's because it's my subconscious going, shut up, Michael, shut up, Michael, shut up, Michael. All right, more questions, more questions, more questions. Yes, you.
This is about Romeo and Juliet. What inspired all the ADR directors to use Shakespearean language, and how was it for you to play William Shakespeare?
Oh man. I'm a Shakespeare fiend. I love Shakespeare. I've grown up with Shakespeare when I was a kid. I read my first Shakespeare play when I was 9, because I didn't understand what the hell it meant, but I was 9. And it was my grandmother, you know, who's very much into literature, who taught English and things like that, very, very close, taught me Shakespeare. She thought it was important, you know, and I'm glad she did. But I'm very much in love with that language, and I've studied it, and I really think Shakespeare's very important, and I think he's kind of given short shrift in school a lot. You know, we're kind of forced to read plays of his, and you know, and you've got you know, English teachers that don't know how to necessarily teach it. You know, but you know, I've grown to love the Bard, and so we all knew. That is to say, Chris Bevins, who produced R&J, and we call it R&J for short, and Taliesin Jaffe and his team of writers, we all knew that it was coming down the line, and we were all just gimme, 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 gimme. And so it was well known who was going to be directing it. It was going to be me and Bruce Elliott. So I got to work with my idol, you know, Bruce, and I got to sort of train him as a director, because I'd been a director for a year at that point, and he was just starting out. So I'm like, hi Bruce. But by that time, he and I were great friends, you know. So it wasn't like, I'm like, it's like, well, you just, you know, no, it was really cool. But we. Taliesin Jaffe, who was the head writer for that show, and who did an amazing job, I think, on just keeping that balance between, you know, the Shakespearean sort of métier and which is just a great way of saying here, and just the sort of everyday sort of anime aspects of it. It was such a great balancing his team. About a year before it hit, he and I had met in LA at I think Anime Expo, and we're just talking about it. He's like, oh, I'm getting the show, I'm going to start writing it, and we kind of discussed, you know, let's take a chance, and let's, you know, I think you should go all out and try it, you know. I mean, it's not, you know, I think anyone that's going to watch this show is going to already be know enough about Shakespeare that it's not going to be alien for them to hear that tone. And if we mix it a little bit with sort of the modern dialogue, it's gonna blend really nicely. And so there was a conscious decision to do it, because in a way we're thinking, well, the Japanese are clearly inspired by one of the greatest writers in English who ever lived. In a way, we were kind of taking our own back with the show, going, we're bringing it back into English, and so we have more of an opportunity to make it sound even more Shakespearean, because we're bringing it back to its native tongue. And even though the show is so different than the play, you know, the spirit of the play and many other Shakespeare plays are in it. You know, you can tell the animators love Shakespeare too, and the characters he created, and so we made the decision to write it for that reason, because we thought this is the audience it deserves. And it brought the best out in all of our actors that came in, because they were like, well, we never get to do this kind of language when we're doing anime. It just doesn't come up very often. It's a rare thing. And it was awesome. And I played